Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Balava Girivaradhari Gopi Chandra Balava Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Praja Jana Ranjana Yahuda Tira Vanachari Yahuda Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we read from Srila Prabhupada Nectar book. So we're reading, if anyone maybe watching on the reading from the book, it would be page 402. It's number 39, Little Drops of Nectar. So, oh, look at this. Don't sleep in class. This is the heading. Krishna always arranges, right? Don't sleep in class. In 1974, when Garuda Das was a new bhakta, he had a tendency to fall asleep during the Srimad Bhagavatam class. He went with the devotees to India for the Mayapur festival. And while in Vrindavan, he got a chance to hear Prabhupada give Bhagavatam lecture, Bhagavatam class. During his lecture, Srila Prabhupada appeared to look in Garuda's direction. He pointed and said, what is he doing? Garuda thought his devotional life was about to come to an end. Prabhupada again asked what he was doing, and he instructed the devotees to tell him to leave. Some devotees started walking over to where Garuda was sitting. Garuda thought he was really going to get it, but the devotees suddenly stopped and told the devotees sitting in front of him to leave the assembly. Never again did Garuda fall asleep in the Bhagavatam class. So there's somebody else who was called a problem. Srila Prabhupada was telling him to go, but Garuda, um, yeah, he it woke him up. So he's very careful not to fall asleep. While Prabhupada was traveling, the next paragraph, while Prabhupada was traveling in India in 1971, one of his sannyasi servants, Devananda Maharaj, had difficulty staying awake in class. Even when Devananda Swami would sit as straight as a yogi, he would still close his eyes. In the middle of the class, Prabhupada would then say, "Don't come here to class and sleep. Go away and sleep 24 hours a day, but don't come and fall asleep in front of me." End quote. On another occasion, Prabhupada again noticed devotees sleeping during the Bhagavatam class. He became annoyed and asked the devotees, "Why this sleeping phenomenon? Why are you all sleeping? Is it because you don't get enough sleep at night?" Devotees attempted to respond. "It's because we're going to bed late," someone said. "It's because we're eating too much at night," said someone else. Srila Prabhupada made a sour face, shook his head, and said that even if they sleep 14 hours a night, they would still sleep in class. He said their excuses were no answers, and that they would only stay awake when they had the conviction that their work in Krishna consciousness was so important that they had no time to sleep. Prabhupada spoke so forcefully that everyone's attention became riveted. There you go. So everyone really paid attention then. Good point, right? So if we're feeling that I have my mission in Krishna consciousness, and I have to, I can't spare the time to sleep. Or at least not fall asleep during the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And Srila Prabhupada himself hardly slept at all. He slept his one time I saw his schedule. His traveling servant, sent certain information for Srila Prabhupada every once in a while. One time he said the Srila Prabhupada's hour sleeping was like whatever time he got to a temple, he would rest from 11 until 1, and then 11 at night until 1 in the morning. He would get up and write books for 6 hours straight, and then in many activities during the day. He would take a nap in the afternoon for about an hour and a half after lunch. He took it after lunch. So that was 2 hours at night, an hour and a half during the day. That's 3.5 hours. But Srila Prabhupada didn't fall asleep when he wasn't supposed to. He just used his every bit of energy he had to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. So this is obviously an example for us to try to follow. We can't imitate, but this is how Srila Prabhupada did it. I also remember when must have been around 1972, I believe, Srila Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan. His Vyas Puja, and then Janmashtami, then Vyas Puja. So on Janmashtami night, Srila Prabhupada had everyone sitting up there in their temple, in the Bahulavan temple, I think, one of their temples there. They were up at night and reading. Srila Prabhupada had different devotees reading from Krishna book about Krishna's pastimes, of course. And devotees were, it was getting late, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and everyone was just like falling asleep, but Srila Prabhupada was still wide awake, very eager to hear. But he saw everyone was falling asleep, so he said, "Okay, just go." But Srila Prabhupada was so much absorbed in these are Krishna's pastimes that Srila Prabhupada was part of those pastimes. So Srila Prabhupada was very much alert the whole time. So going on. Um, Next section, 40. Prabhupada tells short stories. In Mayapur in 1974, Prabhupada told 2 stories to show how acts of charity should be performed in knowledge, not in ignorance. A boy was raised by his aunt, or aunt, as some say, who treated him very liberally. Through bad association, the boy became a thief. Yet his aunt encouraged him, "Oh, it is a very good business. You are bringing so many things without much labor." He was the one stealing things and bringing it back to her. In time, the boy became a murderer. He was captured and sentenced to be hanged. When asked what was his last wish, the man said he wished to speak to his aunt. The aunt was crying and crying. When she leaned forward to hear what her nephew wanted her to hear, the man bit off her ear. He then rebuked his aunt, saying that if she had chastised him for being a thief, instead of showing him kind affection, he would not be hanged and she would not be lamenting. So, the next paragraph. Prabhupada then related how he once had a neighbor whose daughter-in-law was one day beating her child. Prabhupada sent his servant to find out what was the cause. The servant returned and explained that the small boy's brother had typhoid fever. The sick boy told his young brother that he was very hungry, and he asked him to bring him a paratha. The little boy was sympathetic and brought this paratha to his brother. When the sick boy ate it, however, the paratha aggravated the disease. When the mother found out, she punished the boy for endangering his brother's life. Therefore, charity given in ignorance results only in suffering. Like that. Number 41. I also had experience. I didn't give the charity, but Krishna showed me. One time I used to walk around Coconut Grove. I was wearing my dhoti, and I wasn't driving everywhere. I was just walking everywhere. So I was walking around, and one day while I was walking somewhere on Grand Avenue, somebody came up, like a homeless-looking person, asked me for some money. Of course, I wasn't going to give him any money. I didn't have any anyway. But he said, I'm very hungry. I said, no, I can't give you money. If I give you money, you'll go out and you'll buy meat with it, and that'll be very bad for you, and it'll be very bad for me. He said, no, I am vegetarian. I never eat meat. Okay. I still didn't believe him. So as I was walking around, I went into one business where I had to do something, and there he was buying a meat sandwich. So I said, see, this is what I told you. So we got to be careful about those things too. Continuing on, Prabhupada said, this is number 41, on deity worship. Yes, at least once daily, the deity's clothes must be changed in the morning. If the deities are small, as they appear to be from the photograph, then they can be laid down in a bed at night, and they can be given nightgowns to wear before taking rest. That is nice. If there is time and facility, these things can be implemented. So far as bathing is concerned, it requires 2 hands and 1 tongue. In your left hand, be ringing a bell, and simultaneously with your right hand, pour water, chant Hare Krishna or Chintamani or Govinda Jaya Jaya like that. So far as touching the deity, this is possible only as far as touching the deity, this is possible only in a big temple with big deities, but not in a small temple. In big temples like Jagannath Puri, the devotees circumambulate and sometimes touch the lotus feet of the Lord. But in a small temple, that is not possible. If you need help in caring for Tulasi Devi, you can write Govinda Dasi in Hawaii for instructions. Sounds like they walk around and anyone can touch the feet of the deities. But Prabhupada never introduced that here. He made it clear that we always said you can touch the deity. Just reading the other day, you can touch the deity, but you have to be duly initiated. It means Brahman initiated to actually touch the deities. Deity worship can be learned by children at not less than 10 years. Before that, they can assist. They can learn how to bow down, how to dance and chant, and how to make garlands, make clean arctic utensils, etc. In this way, they can be engaged. There are also different parts of deity worship. The next paragraph. The photos of my Murti are very nice. The Murti of the spiritual master should be treated as good as the deity. Sakshat Dari Tvainasamasta Shastriya Uktastata Bhavyata Eva Sadvi Kintu Praborya Priya Eva Tasya. The guru should be treated as good as God. This is stated in all the Shastras. The difference is that God is master God and guru is servant God. So the installation ceremony for such a murti should be similar to that done for the other deities. So if you're installing your murti of the spiritual master, then that should be done just like on the level of the just like we do a regular deity installation. Then the murti of the spiritual master, if installed, would be installed in the same way. All temples can have this deity if they like, but temples which have only Panchatattva painting worship should not be given this deity. Okay? So this is back in 1976. So there were different Prabhupada murtis were given then. Ours probably was around that time too. This one here, on the Vyasa-san. You should make a murti of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and then we may be worshipped together, as is now being done in our Krishna Balaram temple. They should be placed with Gaurnitai, Guru Gauranga. The schedule to be followed in worshiping the deity is as follows. Morning artik may be performed at 4:30 until 5. It starts at 4:30, goes to 5 a.m. And immediately following, the deity room should be washed clean and the dirty utensils removed. Then everyone can chant before the deity until 6:30. It must mean japa. Then the deity should then be bathed and dressed and fresh flowers put. It's a little bit different than the schedule we follow now. It should not take longer than 1 hour to bathe and dress the deity if one actually knows how it is done. But it may take longer, so you may offer a bhoga at 8 o'clock. The idea of bathing the deity after offering bhoga is not correct. No. So please follow this schedule as I have advised. This is from a letter in 1971. So apparently devotees were bathing, doing bhoga offering, and then later on at 8 o'clock, and then having the and then bathing the deities after that. But that was not correct. Regarding your next paragraph, regarding your question of how to carry your deities to different places with you, you should of course always carry them. Then personally, if at all possible, in a small box or cabinet for that purpose. Then when you come to another temple, you may place them on the altar with the other deities. That is nice. Next paragraph. Regarding your question about taking Gaura-Nitai deities with you on traveling kirtan, this is not so important. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was touring India, he did not bring his deity with him. But if you can make proper arrangements, then you may take them. But if you say you have no brahmanas, then I think for the time being you may postpone this program. Number 42, realizations. Pratyatosha Das was an expert sound technician, and from the time he first joined Krishna consciousness, he thought of traveling with Srila Prabhupada and recording his talks and lectures. In 1972, Pratyatosha went to see Srila Prabhupada at New Vrindavan, and he brought his tape recorder. While there, he was asked to go to Prabhupada's cabin and record Srila Prabhupada reciting from the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Pratyatosha entered Prabhupada's room and began setting up his tape recorder. As he worked, Pratyatosha explained to Prabhupada his idea of traveling with him. Prabhupada put his head back and waited for a few seconds, and finally told Pratyatosha it was a good proposal and he would think about it. Sun's still there. Yeah, same. Okay. It's better. Let's move the camera. Okay, continue on. Srila Prabhupada then chanted several chapters of Bhagavad Gita, and Pratyatosha recorded them. After Prabhupada finished the reading, Pratyatosha again asked about traveling with him. Prabhupada then said it was very expensive to travel and that he already had many devotees traveling in his party. He said he did not think the temples could afford it. Pratyatosha had volunteered his service and Prabhupada rejected his proposal. Yet Pratyatosha felt completely satisfied. Srila Prabhupada had been pleased by his proposal and had given it serious consideration. Pratyatosha had never felt so wonderful after having had a proposal rejected. So he was. So even though his idea to travel with Srila Prabhupada was turned down, but he felt because Srila Prabhupada considered it, and even though he didn't agree ultimately because it was too expensive to travel, he felt very good. This devotee felt very good because he had made the proposal, and Srila Prabhupada liked the idea, but it wasn't practical at the moment. Prabhupada is non-different from his books. I had the idea that an author and his books were separate. I tended to think an author had his literary life as well as his private life. But whether Prabhupada was alone in his room or with one or two people, he was always just speaking from his books, just as he did when lecturing in public. The book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat are the same, and realizing this made me very much inspired to study the philosophy. This is Charu Das who wrote this. And this next paragraph is written by Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada never wanted to be late for any preaching engagement. He used to say that Bhaktivinoda Thakur would arrive at the train station hours early, just so that he would not miss the train. Prabhupada himself always preferred to be early. Once in Japan, Srila Prabhupada had an appointment with executives of the Dai Nippon printing company. He did not wish to be late, so he dressed quickly and then chanted his Gayatri while walking to the car. Chant Gayatri while walking to the car. Although he was very strict about matters of sadhana, he was willing to forego certain rules in order to spread Krishna consciousness. Whatever Prabhupada did was great. He is the first person whose eating of dal and chapatis has made thousands of people all over the world eat dal and chapatis. Whatever a great man does, other people will follow. A lot of people ate dal and chapatis in India before Prabhupada, but it didn't make anyone else do it. So, next section. Number 43, Little Drops of Nectar. This paragraph is called On Giving Mercy. In Calcutta, in 1971, Yamuna Dasi was bringing Prabhupada his lunch. Prabhupada asked her if she was teaching the girls how to cook. At that point, Kaushalya Dasi, who was outside the room, spoke up and said that Yamuna was actually not teaching them to cook. Prabhupada then looked at Yamuna Dasi and in a very serious tone told her that if she did not distribute her knowledge, she would become envious. Yamuna then understood that whatever she learned from Prabhupada, she should share with others, including the knowledge of cooking. And of course, Yamuna was an expert cook, wrote a big cookbook like that. So the next paragraph. Once Prabhupada was leaving Paris, the devotees accompanied him to the airport and sat with him in the departure lounge, waiting with him until the time he could board the plane. At one point, Prabhupada took off his flower garland and instructed the devotees to distribute it to non-devotees. Hari Vilas Das got up and began handing out flowers. Hari Vilas was struck by Prabhupada's magnanimous nature. Prabhupada was not only engaging them in service, but also teaching them how to preach. He realized that Prabhupada wanted his devotees to use every minute to spread Krishna consciousness to the conditioned living entities. Prabhupada watched them distributing the flowers and seemed very pleased. When they returned to their seats, besides Prabhupada, he expressed his pleasure that they had done this, and they too became pleased. Imagine. Pankajanava Das was next paragraph. Pankajanava Das was nervous when he received Brahmana initiation. A devotee had shown Pankajanava how to count the different Gayatri mantras on his fingers, but the method which he showed him was not correct. When Pankajana went to receive Gayatri. Prabhupada demonstrated the correct method of counting. But because Pankajana was nervous, he could not hear Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So he repeatedly used the wrong method of counting the mantras. So, you cannot be initiated, Prabhupada finally said. Your memory is too short. Call my servant. Pankajanava stood up and got the servant. When the servant came in, Pankajanava told him he was too nervous. Prabhupada then told Pankajanava to go outside and practice. He later returned and counted the mantras correctly. So, okay, one more paragraph. From the time the devotees first moved into the Berkeley temple, the neighbors caused trouble. The people living across the street from the temple made a large sign blaspheming the Hare Krishnas and hung it on the front of their house. When Prabhupada came to Berkeley for Rath Yatra, the devotees became anxious. They tried to take Prabhupada down another street so that he would not see the sign, but the road construction and a detour forced the devotees to take Prabhupada past the house. To keep Prabhupada from seeing the sign, the devotees began pointing the opposite direction on the street. Prabhupada, they said, look at the trees, aren't they nice? Do you see the temple? Then Prabhupada happened to turn and he noticed the sign. He said it was nice and that this was the only house in America with Krishna's name on it, on the front. Imagine. Srila Prabhupada always saw the positive. Even when there were people, even when in the news, there were sometimes many things. The Hare Krishnas did this, the Hare Krishnas did that, the Hare Krishnas were brainwashing people. But Srila Prabhupada saw, oh, how many millions of people are seeing Hare Krishna like that. So that's the, should we read a little more or no? Yeah. Okay, so we'll end for today. We'll start on number 44 the next time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.